We're showing you this picture because the NFL season kicks off tonight. It's the Eagles versus the Cowboys. And yes, I am a Cowboy hater. If you're a Cowboy fan, I'm sorry for you, but I root for anyone who's playing against the Cowboys. Plus, I like Jalen Hurts. I think the kid has a great story, and so I'm always going to root for Jalen Hurts. Anyway, Cowboys-Eagles, they play tonight. I went far too much into sports. We're getting you ready for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, so we're going to go down 95 a little bit to New York here in just a little bit for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. I can tell you, pre-market trading not looking so hot on the Dow. It is currently in the red. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ currently in the green. The rest of the board is in the red, though. Hopefully all of that will change here in short order. Once again, we'll take you to the New York Stock Exchange for the opening bell in just a few minutes. But now, let's get you over to David. David Brody, good morning. Hopefully, it will be a better season for your New York Jets. I'm not so positive it will be, but I'm hopeful for you.
The best part of the New York Jets season is when we're 0-0. That pretty much is the best part of our season, and then it goes downhill from there. By the way, we just love each other, T. Bates, but the Cowboy hate, I am with you on that. So you know what? I hate the Cowboys too. I mean, in a Christian way, I hate them. But yes, I hate them.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with you. And we'll just leave it there.
We'll
just leave it there.
Unless you want to talk about the Bears. But let's not do that, maybe. Should we? No, maybe not. All right, we'll come back. It's time for my single. It's time for my close-up. I kind of like it. All right, now it's time for our daily dose of dollars and common sense with American Sunrise Early Edition host and the guy behind Jake's Takes, Substack. Substack, did I say that? Yeah, correct, Substack. That'd be Jake Novak, a long-suffering Jet fan, along with me. Jake, we'll get to the NFL in a moment. Let's start with the big break Google just got in the federal courts. Tell us more.
Yeah, let me just say this straight up. Google is a monopoly. It's a terrible monopoly. It's a publishing monopoly. You don't really exist if you're not primarily featured or prominently featured on Google search. We all know that's true. I know there are other search engines, and I love them, but Google's still dominant. The courts basically gave them a big break. Yes, they admitted that they are basically a monopoly. They've committed a lot of antitrust violations, but they spared Google earlier this week from the worst kinds of punishments. Although I got to put worse with an asterisk. In other words, they didn't break the company up. They didn't say they don't have to sell off their Chrome browser. All these things to me, if you think those are financial hits that Google will take, you'd be wrong. When a company is split up like this, actually its shareholders end up making more money, but they lose their power. You know, those top executives at Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, it's about their power. They're willing to forego that extra money. But because they didn't get that punishment, the stock's been up this week. It's been a big reason why tech sector has been strong so far this week in this abbreviated week. The courts basically have hands off. With President Trump, they're all hands in his business. But with the tech sector, they want to keep their hands off. And that doesn't smell too good to me. I think that has a lot to do with the financial aspects of this. It's an ugly situation. Google's a monopoly. Amazon's a monopoly. We have broken up monopolies in this country for weaker reasons than we see right now with Google and Amazon. I'd like to see them broken up. We can have another discussion about that, but suffice it to say, leaving them alone has left the power struggle at the top of those businesses in a pretty good shape, and their stocks are up this week.
Yeah, and these monopolies still pass go and collect more than $200. Yeah. That is no doubt about it. All right, Jake, the tariffs, they've acted as a true test of some business plans, but they have also started to expose a few things about the big union, specifically the UAW, and then Canada's version of that union known as the Unifor. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Unifor?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. I don't know. I didn't know that.
The UAW complained, to their credit. They did complain when NAFTA was passed and some of those jobs were lost. A lot of jobs were lost to Canada and Mexico. But they didn't break up their union solidarity party over it. In other words, they still remained affiliated with Unifor, which is the Canadian version of the UAW, and some other international unions. In fact, they're still trying to really unionize the Mexican workers. Well, not so much coming from the other side. Unifor is really looking to break up with the UAW over this because they're losing a few jobs. I mean, welcome to the party, Canada. NAFTA and other things have killed off American auto jobs for decades in this country. And the UAW never threatened to cut off its friendship and its allegiance with Unifor. But the Canadians have a much thinner skin, apparently. And by the way, this is one of the interesting things about tariffs. It seems to be breaking up the so-called union solidarity. It's not lasting. The Canadians not willing to swallow it. But by the way, shame on the UAW. They complained about NAFTA, but they didn't pull out the nuclear option as far as trying to keep those jobs here in the United States, which they could have done. So maybe it's just what goes around comes around.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jake, let's talk about the NFL season kicking off tonight, as T. Bates mentioned earlier, down at the Link. We got the Eagles and the Cowboys. You have some numbers, by the way, to back up your premise that pro football is America's #1 addiction. Please do tell, Jake.
Yeah, it really is. There's no other entertainment option out there that crosses all the lines, racial lines, gender lines, economic lines. The NFL is it's just a juggernaut. And I know there's a lot of things about it politically that angered a lot of us over the years, and I understand that. But just look at the numbers. The fact is the NFL has not suffered. So we found out just now that NBC, telling us about their numbers, they have already sold 90% of all of the ads for all their Sunday night football games. Of course, they're on Thursday night tonight. And the Super Bowl is completely sold out. And again, most importantly, the numbers that they're getting for these ads, the highest ever. This is America's addiction. And by the way, this is a scary thing for me because it tells the NFL that all the things that they've done, all those missteps, all the politics, they can get away with it, which means they'll probably do it again. I hope they don't. But the fact is that the money's still pouring in. They think that means everything to them. And I just don't see anything weakening this juggernaut. It is the #1 addiction in America.
Well, I've got to tell you, I'm trying to tie in the New York Jets to, money and numbers and stuff. So I'll just maybe say something like this. What about the stock in the New York Jets? As in, should we put any stock in the Jets this season? You're a long-suffering Jet fan. I'm a long-suffering Jet fan. The joke goes that what do Jet fans do when they win the Super Bowl? They turn off the PlayStation. And that's kind of like where we're at. What do you think? I've got my prescription meds all set and ready to go. They are ready because we're going to need them maybe this season. I don't know. What do you think? I got 20 seconds, by the way.
The best thing about this season, David, is that there's no disappointment really on the horizon. There are such low expectations for the Jets, unlike the last 2 years. So actually, this is just going to be an easy one. It's the disappointment that really gets you, right? That's what really bothers you. And I don't see any high expectations for the Jets this year. So I think it's going to be an even keel emotional year for all of us.
Yeah, John Steinbeck writing low expectations with the Jets. Thank you, Jake Novak. Good to see you. I appreciate it. All right, that's my literary knowledge. That's about as deep as I go. Time for T. Bates, opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Welcome back, everyone. We're about a minute away from the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Momentarily, you'll hear the applause, and then shortly after that, we'll hear the opening bell. Vontable is on the podium right now. You're hearing the applause, and then the bell will ensue. I can tell you that pre-market trading, at least on the Dow, wasn't so positive. So maybe now that the markets are officially open as you hear the bell, things will change a little bit. All right, let's take a look. Here we go. Not so much. The Dow is still down right now. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ are still in the green. Again, there's a whole day of trading ahead, so all of that can change. The rest of our board, as you can also see, is in the red. So buy low, sell high. Maybe if you buy right now and things pick up a little bit, you can sell a little bit higher and make yourself a little bit of money. Well, folks, if you're stressed out about back taxes, maybe you missed the April deadline or your books are a mess, you definitely don't want to wait. The IRS is cracking down. We're talking about penalties that add up really fast, 5% per month, up to 25% just for not filing. There is help, though. Tax Network USA can take the burden off of your shoulders and stop the spiral before it gets worse. They've really helped thousands of Americans, whether you're an employee, a small business owner, or if you haven't filed in years. If you've got messy books, don't even worry about it. They've got you covered. They've seen it all, and they know exactly how to clean it up. With direct access to powerful IRS programs and expert negotiators on your side, Tax Network USA knows how to win. You'll get a free consultation, and if you qualify, they may even be able to reduce or eliminate what you owe. More importantly, they'll help protect you from wage garnishments or bank levies. So don't wait for the IRS to send you the next letter. Instead, call 800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com/RAV to talk to a real expert at Tax Network USA. Take the pressure off and let Tax Network USA handle your tax business for you. Still to come here on American Sunrise, we all know nil deals have been running rampant in college sports, but how have they impacted the game itself? We'll analyze. That's ahead here on American Sunrise.